This episode of Android Authority is brought to you by Domain.com. When this news dropped earlier this week, the internet seemed to have lost its collective mind. Why? Earlier this week, Google announced Alphabet, its new parent company, that will encompass all its other brands, including Google. What is Alphabet? Alphabet is mostly a collection of companies, the largest of which, of course, is Google. This newer Google is a bit slimmed down, with the companies that are pretty far afield from our main internet products contained in Alphabet instead. Now, this is Larry Page's somewhat convoluted way of saying that Google and all the companies that they've bought are now split up into separate companies themselves. Instead of being divisions under Google, they are separate companies, for most part with their own CEOs, that now answer to their new parent company, Alphabet. So, why do this at all? Simply put, Google was getting too big for its own good, and as each of its subsidiaries grew, the company would find itself stretched. Under the old structure, the company would need to plan strategically as a search giant, thermostat maker, operating system developer, internet provider, but now, the slimmer Google can just focus on its core aims of providing internet products and services to people like you and me. Google's co-founder Larry Page went on to say this: "Sergey and I are seriously in the business of starting new things. We've long believed that over time companies tend to get comfortable doing the same thing, just making incremental changes. But in the technology industry, where revolutionary ideas drive the next big growth areas, you need to be a bit uncomfortable to stay relevant." Okay, sounds pretty good, but what does this mean for Google as we know it? One of the biggest changes in Alphabet is the ability to have each business have its own CEO, and this is likely one of the biggest reasons behind the new structure. As a division of Alphabet, Google is now able to run independently of the other businesses and focus purely on its end product. The newer slimmed-down version of Google will be run by Sundar Pichai, who steps up to become the new CEO of Google. He will control all of Google's internal divisions, except for YouTube, which will continue to be a subdivision of Google, but will be run by current CEO Susan Wojcicki. By letting Pichai take the reins at Google, both Page and Brin can now take a step back and focus on the future. Larry Page said this of Sundar Pichai: "Sergey and I have been super excited about his progress and dedication to the company, and it is clear to us and our board that it is time for Sundar to be CEO of Google. I feel very fortunate to have someone as talented as he is to run the slightly slimmed down Google, and this frees up time for me to continue to scale our aspirations. Google itself is also making all sorts of new products, and I know Sundar will always be focused on innovation, continuing to stretch boundaries." So all of Google's other companies like Google X, Google Ventures, Google Capital, Google Fiber will now be somewhat independent, have their own CEOs, and all report to the parent company, Alphabet. If it's a bit confusing, this may help. The core Google businesses, including Search, YouTube, and Android, becomes a slimmer Google, with other businesses like Coleco, Nest Labs, Venture, etc. become part of Alphabet. Now there's also another big reason: money, money, money. The restructuring should also mean significant changes for shareholders and the stock market alike. Under its old structure, the wider Google group reported all its figures together, with only some declaration of individual performance. But the restructuring should also hopefully provide more transparency. For example, Google's venture arm may have invested $500 million in a bold new startup, only for it to fail miserably. And this would have impacted the wider Google group financials. As such, shareholders may have questioned whether it would have been better to invest the money in developing the core Google businesses. Under the new structure, however, the company could report the Google Ventures and Google Financials separately. And while this may not change the shareholder opinions about the money being spent, it should provide greater transparency on the performance of individual units as well as the company as a whole. Now, although this big news won't necessarily have a direct effect on you and me, it does encourage more innovation, and that is always a good thing. Now come on guys, it's one of the fundamental rules of the internet. When you start a new site and you want people to take it seriously for business, you really want to get the .com. Now why is that? Because no domain name extension tells your story with the same degree of trust as a .com or .net domain name. .com and .net domain name extensions inject credibility into your online presence. And who doesn't want more credibility? You can save 15% on domain names and web hosting when you use our coupon code ANDROID at domain.com checkout. Don't forget, 15% off when you use our coupon code ANDROID. When you think domain names, think domain.com. Thanks for watching, Android Army. Love to connect with you right here on Google Plus or Twitter. You don't want to forget about my brothers and sister in Android. We're working super hard to be your source for all things Android.